Excultbaby. Testing, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you
Hey,
hear me?
I can hear you. Oh, and by the way, where can people find you? You have a YouTube channel, don't you?
I do. My YouTube channel is also Excultbaby, all one word, EX, not just an X. Uh, I have a Twitter also that's Excultbaby, and yeah, that
And
those are
that's
my
it.
main
Okay.
things that I
I'll
use.
put a link to it in the description of the video if you guys want to take a look. It's a pretty interesting YouTube channel. So, we met at Faithless Forum, didn't we?
We did. Well, we more met at the after party. I had been meaning to talk to you literally the whole day, and I had only managed to track you down when you were dead tired at the after
I kept
party.
escaping, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I heard that, you know what happened was, I think Drew, a genetically modified skeptic, he messaged me and was like, "You've got to get in contact with this person. How can like where can I send them to get in contact with you?" That's what happened. It was
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool of him, I guess, to do
Yeah,
that.
he was really cool. He was like super supportive and just was like, "You gotta talk to Telltale." And I was like, "Okay, I will." And then seconds later, he messaged me. He's like, "I talked to Telltale for you already."
Yeah, yeah, he's pretty cool. So tell me, like, what is your story? What religion were you originally? Of course, I know, but for the audience, let's start from
Right.
scratch.
Okay, so I'm an ex Jehovah's Witness. Um, I was raised in it. My parents and my grandparents on both sides of my family, my aunts and uncles and cousins are all Jehovah's Witnesses, except for like one aunt that's disfellowshipped still, but everybody else in my family is active Jehovah's Witnesses.
That sounds
So,
rough. So, what's it like
yeah,
being in that situation? Do they know that you're not anymore, or what's the deal?
I don't know if they know that I'm like full blown apostate
Mm,
or atheist, but I have said stuff to them that I've made it pretty clear that I'm not going to quote respect the disfellowshipping arrangement.
mm,
I basically told all my family, at least my immediate family recently, like, hey, I understand you guys feel like you have to do this thing where you're shunning me. Well, I'm not going to shun myself. So
right.
I'm still going to talk to you guys. You don't have to respond if you don't want to, but like, I'm not going to not talk to you.
There you go.
So
That's interesting. So, did you ever get baptized, or no?
I was baptized at 15, which was like super late for. I mean, if anybody is an extra Jehovah's Witness, I'm sure that they were
Mm.
getting pressure at like, like 11 years
Yeah, yeah,
old or
really
whatever.
early for sure.
Yeah, and I had been getting that pressure all along, but I don't know. I just didn't make the commitment until I was like 15, and
Mm.
now I'm like, oh my god, I wish I hadn't. And
Yeah.
especially since I was an elder's daughter, so it was
Oh wow.
definitely an
Even worse.
expectation. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
That was
remember.
actually.
Oh, go ahead.
So go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think I was like 13 when it happened for me, and even then, I was like the first one to get baptized in my congregation. They weren't like too uptight about it. They were like just really happy when it happened to me. You know, maybe I was 14. I may have been 14, I think. But anyways, so you were an elder's daughter, you say?
Yup.
So it was even more intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was actually a big part of me eventually leaving that I felt so much pressure to be a good example. Like everybody looked at our family and they were like, "Oh, you guys are such a good spiritual family. You
Oh
guys
yeah.
are like goals. You guys are a great example." And I literally like got asked to chaperone middle school slumber parties and stuff like that. Like
Wow.
I was the one who was supposed to, be this great example of a good Christian woman, which just
Mm.
made my whole double life situation 10 times guiltier.
Yeah. So how did you end up leaving? Like, what was the whole situation with that?
Yeah, so when I was a sophomore, was it a sophomore? No. When I was a junior, I discovered, oh, so I guess I'm attracted to women, and that's an issue.
Okay.
Um, I came out to my family, and they reacted in like the most like, oh, we don't hate gay people, but it's a sin kind of
Mm.
way. Like my parents didn't say anything really incredibly negative. They they were basically as supportive of this they could be without being like actually supportive, you
Right.
know? Like they were like, well, it's something you might grow out of. You don't necessarily have to call yourself bisexual just because you feel attraction to women, but they didn't invalidate how I felt.
Okay. Well,
They never
that's
said
something.
anything like they never doubted my feelings. They never told me that it was like they basically didn't gaslight me and make me like, are you sure that's how you feel? And they never accused me of anything like choosing it or anything like that. So basically I feel like, and this kind of makes me even more mad, I feel like if my parents weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, they would be completely accepting of me, and literally
Yeah.
the only thing keeping them from being completely accepting of me is that they're Jehovah's Witnesses. But
Definitely. So, have you
yeah.
talked to them about it like since then? Are they still kind of on the fence about it, or what's the deal with it?
Well, let me continue the
All right,
story
go
and
ahead. Go ahead.
kind of go in. So, um, in after I graduated high school, I had this one friend who was a trans guy, and he had this girlfriend. And the long story short, the three of us all ended up in a polyamorous relationship. We were dating, and basically, I kind of came to the conclusion that the funny thing is, we actually started dating while I was on a trip to Bethel. So
Oh
I'm like
God.
touring these biblical things, and at the same time I'm texting my boyfriend and my girlfriend. Ooh, that felt kind of dangerous.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
bet it felt
uh,
exhilarating though. That's awesome.
yeah. Well, at the time it mostly just felt guilt. It felt like, well, I'm gonna die in Armageddon. You win, Satan. This
Yeah.
is it. But
Yeah.
I was like resigned to do what I was gonna do. It was just like, oh well, I guess I'm gonna die. I hadn't really lost my belief at all. I still believed it was true. I just was like, fuck it. I can't do this anymore. I
Yeah.
can't pretend this anymore. I Yeah. So
So, how old were you when you lost your belief? Was it around that time, like when you started realizing it was BS, or?
it wasn't actually until I'd been out for a little while.
Okay. Okay.
So after the three of us had been dating for a few months, um, my this happened in 2017. There was this special meeting. I
Mhm.
don't remember what it was for because I didn't end up going to it, but there was some kind of special meeting in like the middle of or early October.
Mm.
I don't know if any other extra Jehovah's Witnesses remember this because I wasn't really involved in the extra Jehovah's Witness community at the time, and I didn't end up going to this meeting, so I have no idea what was there. No, it wasn't. It wasn't the new Bible. That was in like 2013.
Mm.
Um, it was earlier than that, but yeah. So anyway, we're getting ready for this going to this meeting. My whole family is, and um, I'm getting ready to go. I go downstairs to get breakfast, and my dad marches me back up. Like, look, this is unchristian. It's ungodly for your room to be this messy.
Okay.
Basically said that I couldn't even go to this. Like, at this point, it was a struggle for me just to go to the meetings. Like, I made as many excuses as I could to get out of them whenever I could. But now I'm like, my own dad, who's the elder, is keeping me from going to the meeting because my room is a
What
mess, and
is the
I'm just like,
deal? How bizarre.
I know. And I'll be honest, it was a mess. Like,
Mm.
he wasn't wrong, but it was just like I was so fed up with the nitpicking. Like, instead of cleaning my room, I just started packing, and I was like, I don't know where I'm going, but
Mm.
I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm sick of this shit. I can't deal with this anymore. It was like it was like the Jehovah's Witness oppression got to the point where it was just
Yeah.
like, really? I can't even go to the stupid meeting that I don't even want to go to because my room isn't clean?
Yep. I know
Then fuck it,
exactly
I'm
what
not
you
gonna
mean.
go.
Yep.
You know?
So, how old
So
were you at that point?
I was 18.
Okay.
I was gonna turn 19 pretty soon because my birthday's in November and this happened in October.
Mm.
And I ended up staying with a friend for a few months, and then I ended up moving in with. I was actually homeless for maybe like a week
Mm.
or a week and a half or something like that, and then I moved in with my current fiance at the time, boyfriend.
Mm.
Because the relationship that I was in didn't end up working out, and for a while I was really angry about it. But now looking back, I'm like, if I hadn't been in that relationship, how much longer would it have been before I got out? Because
Right.
that was a big motivator for me. Was like, because even though I had gotten fed up with that at that point, I had been thinking about leaving for a while because
Yeah.
I basically knew that there was no way that there was any long term success possible for the relationship that I was in if I didn't get out of my parents' house
Yep.
because I couldn't even see them, you know?
Yep. I definitely know what you mean. That's really interesting. So it was a week before you turned 18 or a week before you turned 19 when you ended
Oh,
up leaving?
it was about a month
Oh,
before
a
I
month.
turned
I'm sorry, a
19,
month.
but I
Okay.
was 18 at the time. And I had a talk with my parents about it between like there was about a week after that before I got disfellowshipped. So there's like a week where I'm living in a different house, but I can still kind of talk to my parents a little bit because they're at some point my dad picked me up for some reason because I couldn't get a ride from anybody else.
Mm,
And he basically told me, "Hey, this is only going to happen the one time. Like, don't
mm,
make a habit out of this." And I was like, "Okay," but basically, I got to talk to my parents a little bit between then and between me getting disfellowshipped and me actually moving out of the house. And the talk that I had with my dad was really interesting. He basically said, I understand why you feel like you have to do this. This is something that's clearly been eating away at you for a long time. This is something you feel you need to pursue, and I understand that.
That's an
And
interesting conclusion for him to come to as a Jehovah's Witness and an elder, no less, right?
yeah, my dad is okay. My dad is the one that's made me as like progressive as I am. He's the one that introduced
Wait, he's the one that introduced you to what?
Star Trek.
Oh,
I'm a
really?
huge
Okay.
Trekkie. I'm a huge Trekkie, and so is he. And if you've ever watched the show,
I have all of them.
oh yeah, me too. It has it promotes very progressive ideals,
Yeah.
for the future of mankind, a very secular humanist type of future. So, and my dad never skirted around those issues. Like there was an episode in Gen where Riker falls in love with this alien, and the alien, well, that's typical. But this
Right.
particular alien that Riker has fallen in love with is like part of a species that's genderless, but this
Yeah.
one member of the species starts to express gender. And then the when the other members of the species find out about it, they like kind of close in ranks and then do something to the alien off screen, and then they come back and they're like, "Oh, I'm fine
Yep,
now."
I remember that one. That was like super sad.
Yeah, my dad paused the episode and explained to me that this has a real life correlation with conversion therapy for gay people.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he told me that. He stopped the episode to explain to me what the real life correlation was, and it was clear that he did not approve. Like, it, it really kind of disturbs me that the level of cognitive dissonance that
Yeah.
my family has to go through every day with like clearly being able to see human rights issues and understand them and like understand that it's not fair and still be like, yeah, but it is a sin, so
Yep.
like they're just barely not supportive, just
I
barely.
know. It's such a shame. Like, just imagine where they would be if they weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, right?
Yeah, I think about that all the time. It's like I just know that they'd be so much better off.
Yeah. So,
But yeah,
what's the situation now? Like, do you talk to them now or
no, not
no?
really. I the only one who will kind of talk to me a little bit is,
Wait, I'm sorry, you broke up again. You
sorry.
said it's your mom and your brother?
Yeah. My mom, I can if I ask her a direct question, she'll answer it. Pretty much even if it's just something trivial, but she won't like get into a conversation.
Mm.
My brother, he's not baptized, but he still doesn't want to talk to me. When I left the house, he was really angry. He's a teen boy. Honestly,
Yeah.
he was going through a lot of shit, and I was isolating myself in mental preparation for leaving.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there for him like I should have been, and I understand why he was angry, and I understand why he's still angry because obviously he's still quite indoctrinated, even if he isn't baptized yet. And like I said, he's an angry teenage boy.
That's rough.
Yeah,
How old is he
but
now?
God, he's 16 or 17
Okay,
now.
gotcha.
Yeah, but so I don't really talk to them regularly, but
Mm.
I can get a response from my brother.
Mm.
Like when I told him when I sent out the text message to all my family, like, listen, I'm not going to shun myself from you. He basically said, well, I don't want to talk to you because you're disfellowshipped, and that was the only answer I got. And I
Okay,
was like,
then.
okay, whatever.
Yeah. That's the only
Well,
response you got from like any of the family?
No, well, that was the only response I got from him. My
Okay.
dad, of course, sends the, well, I understand that you don't respect the disfellowshipping arrangement, but I'm going to.
Mm,
He said that it would be, please don't contact us because it would be needless heartache. And I'm like, I don't know how to make you understand that it's totally on you.
yeah.
Like, it's not normal for you to not want to talk to me. I
Right.
don't know how to make you understand
I
that.
know. I hear the same thing from my mom. She says it's my doing and my fault because I got disfellowshipped and I'm not coming back to Jehovah. They want to flip it on you. You know what I mean?
Right. Like it's your fault that they are shunning you. And the thing is, like I said before, the thing that I'm shunned for is something, at least at the time it was, and now it's not even that. It's not even, I'm not even now. I my fiance is a dude, and I'm not even in a gay relationship now. So really the thing that they were shunning me for was something that they barely had an issue with in the first place on a personal level.
Yeah.
And now I know that my mom actually likes my fiance. When I first introduced him to her, when we would just started dating, she was like all smiles. She was
Really?
beaming. She asked him tons of questions. She likes him. I know that they don't really have an issue with the way that I'm living my life, like on a practical level.
Yeah.
It's all about watchtower control over
Yeah,
them.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I see that exact same thing. When I ended up getting disfellowshipped, I was kind of living in sin, I guess you could say. Like I was drinking and I was smoking cigarettes and I had a girlfriend and all that other stuff. So what I ended up doing was I ended up getting married to the girl so that I wasn't living in sin anymore. And
Oh
I
gosh.
stopped smoking and I stopped drinking. I was like living the way a Jehovah's Witness was supposed to live. Just not a Jehovah's Witness anymore. So I know exactly what you mean. Like I found myself in that exact same position. My
Hmm.
parents were shunning me, not because of how I was acting or what I was doing, but entirely because of how the Watchtower Society viewed me, you know?
Yep. And I don't know if I even have the heart to tell my family that at this point there's no way that I would ever come back.
Mm.
Like I feel like they kind of get the sense of that, but I
How
think
do you
I've
think they'd
told,
react
I don't
if
know.
you straight up told them? Do you think that they would react really poorly, just freak out and start
I
crying?
think that it would definitely, any level of communication that I have with gone,
Mm.
and I guess that I don't want that
Yeah.
because it's like it's barely anything. Like the last conversation I had with my, asking her if my sister drinks coffee because I vaguely remember that my sister had started to become a coffee drinker, and now I work at a coffee shop, so I wanted to bring them some of the coffee
Right.
because it's really good. But
Not to toot my
yeah,
own horn. Toot toot. No.
well, I'm a barista. I
Okay.
care about the art, the craft.
Okay,
Okay.
I understand. I'm a big coffee drinker. I'm so embarrassed to say that I did not consider bringing coffee to Faithless Forum. Next year we're going to,
Yeah,
though.
man. How could you do
It was
that?
sad. I was so heartbroken. But next year we're planning on getting like a bunch of big coffee. What are they? Stills? Coffee stills? Is that what they're called? Anyway, we're gonna have some of those, and we're gonna have like some Faithless Forum cups and everything. It's gonna be so awesome. I can't wait. And it's gonna be a
That's
two
gonna be
day
dope.
event. Yeah, are you gonna be there?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. It's gonna be pretty exciting. I felt like this year was pretty cool. Did you? What were your thoughts on it? I mean, it's kind of hard to tell like everything when you're a planner. You don't know how it's going
Hmm.
aside from like people's reactions or whatever.
My reaction, I thought that it was great, and like you were saying earlier that you that it would be as long, and I
Yeah,
gotta tell you, compared to Jehovah's Witness conventions, it did not feel long.
that's true. That's a good point.
Even though it was like twice as long in actual time, it didn't feel like it. There was no talks that I felt like I was going to fall asleep during. And I
Yeah.
always fell asleep during Jehovah's Witness conventions, no matter how invested I tried to make
Yep.
myself. I always fell asleep.
I know
It's,
exactly what you mean. I actually learned how to take notes and stuff like with shorthand and everything just so that it would like kind of try to keep me awake during those conventions, you know?
mm-hmm, yeah.
It was terrible. How like what
Mm-hmm.
year was the last convention you went to? Do you remember?
I actually went to the convention after I was disfellowshipped, so I actually went last year.
Okay. Well,
and I brought my fiance, but by then I was mentally out.
oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
it was a very different experience. But even then, I wasn't seeing it fully as strange as it was, but my
Mhm.
fiance did. And he was like, "What the hell was that?" Like, they gave that talk about, like, unconditional obedience to the elders. What
Yes.
was that?
Yes.
That's terrifying. And to me, it was just like, that was pretty run of the mill. I barely thought anything of it.
Yeah, it's really hard to break yourself out. I mean, even for me, it's hard for me to break out of that mindset completely and see things for how strange they are, you know?
Hmm.
It's super fascinating. I wish that I'd gone to the 2016 convention. I think that that was
Oh
the
my
Remain Loyal to
god.
Jehovah one, right?
Yeah. That shit was fucked.
I know. I wish that I'd gone there because it seems like so bizarre watching the videos from it and stuff. And I didn't even get to hear any of the talks. I just saw like the drama videos and stuff.
Oh yeah, the all the emotionally leading stuff, all of the scare tactics. Oh man, there was so much. Like, that convention was, it was, at the time it seemed very encouraging, but looking back, it definitely just was really scary.
Yeah, for sure. I got a lot of YouTube content out of that convention. Just
Mhm.
talking about their thought stopping techniques and everything else is just so
Mhm.
bizarre to see it in action, you know?
God, those bunker videos,
I
man.
know. But they're so valuable now, like to illustrate all of the ways that cults control people. They're just quintessential examples of it, you know?
Mhm. So, real quick,
Yeah,
if we still have time to chat just a
sure.
little bit,
Got about
I want
5 minutes.
to know, what do you think? How long do you think it's going to take them to declare the Great Tribulation?
I think that they have the second generation teaching. I don't know if you know that one, but I
Hmm.
bet my
Yeah.
audience doesn't. So let me give a just a real bare basic explanation of it. In 1914, when Jesus came back, they said that the last of that generation won't die out before the end comes, pretty much. So they're basically saying somebody who was baptized and anointed before 1914
Hmm.
will not die out before the Great Tribulation comes. Well, the last person to get anointed and baptized in 1913 was, what was it, Fred Franz, I think?
Hmm. I think that it wasn't exactly him, but they used him
You're
as a
right. They use
reference
him
because it
as
was
a
like the oldest.
reference. Yeah. So assuming it's him, he died in like 1992, I think, and that means that the end should have come before 1992, right? Well, now we
Right.
have a situation where the end isn't here. So they're saying that it's contemporaries. Anybody who was baptized and anointed during the same time period as Fred Franz was alive, they count. So basically, long story short, they have about 25 years before that runs up, and they have to either change their doctrine again or declare the Great Tribulation. And honestly, I think within the next 20 years, they're probably just going to change the doctrine. I thought maybe they were going to come out and, I mean, they're perfectly primed to commit mass suicide. I mean, they have all of their
Yeah.
people. They could do that if they wanted to. They
They
could
really could.
totally do it.
And that scares me so much because they are like, "Oh, we're not a cult." But if they did something that was so, like, blatantly culty, they'd still do it.
Yeah. And then they would explain it away with some like shallow explanation. But anyway, so the bottom line is I think it's going to be in the next 20 years they're going to change their doctrine. I don't think that they're ever going to declare great tribulation. It would be so interesting to
Oh my
see though,
god,
you know.
yeah. I think if they did, the organization would fall apart really quickly
Yeah.
because it would be, they believe that it's going that the Great Tribulation will be extremely short.
Yeah.
So they really can't say, "Oh, well, time."
Yeah.
I think that they wouldn't have much room to do that. It would end so quickly, and the whole organization, I feel like, would fall apart. People would be leaving in droves.
That's true, but I've actually thought about this a good bit myself, and I actually talked to one of the current members of Heaven's Gate, like that group that killed themselves,
Hmm.
like 39 people dead, and there are actually still members alive. I don't think that,
What?
yeah, still currently like around. I suspect that there will always be Jehovah's Witnesses. Just a few, even if it's just a few.
Oh yeah,
There will always
but
be
the
some.
as long as the organization itself part, I don't care if
Right.
believers. I really don't, because they're not going to be able to really do anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. I can definitely get on board with that. And on that note, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. It's been a really interesting conversation. I'm sure we'll talk again one of these days, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Oh, and by the way, where can people find you? You have a YouTube channel, don't you?
I do. My YouTube channel is also Excultbaby, all one word, EX, not just an X. I have a Twitter also that's Excultbaby, and yeah,
And
those are
that's
my
it.
main
Okay.
things that I use.
I'll put a link to it in the description of the video if you guys want to take a look. It's a pretty interesting YouTube channel. But yeah, thanks for coming on again. I will talk to you later on, okay?
Yeah, it was nice coming on. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Faithless Forum, though, it was really fantastic. Really, really glad that it went as well as it did. I feel like it went really well. It was a really good time. But anyways, yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on and giving this a listen, and I will talk to you next week.